12:15, we're live.
Too bad she's not on the agenda.
You tell her.
Well, good evening and welcome to the Ferndale City Council meeting for Monday, November 26, 2018. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Barb, would you call the roll, please?
Hold that thought just one second. Mayor Pro Tem Polika,
Here.
Councilmember Piana,
Here.
Leaks May. Here. Martin,
Here.
Mayor Coulter.
Here, thank you. We have a quorum this evening. The next item of business would be the approval of the agenda.
Your Honor, can we add County Commissioner Helene Zach as presentation B?
All right.
Support.
Moved by Martin, supported by Polika. Is there any discussion on the agenda? Barb, would you call the roll, please?
Yes. Councilmember Piana,
Yes.
Leaks May,
Yes.
Martin,
Yes.
Polika,
Yes.
and Mayor Coulter.
Yes, thank you. The agenda is adopted. So moving on now to presentations. We now have two presentations, and the first is Sharon Chess, who's here on behalf of the Ferndale Community Concert Band. She's also here dressed in holiday spirit to the nines. Awesome.
It's not just the holiday season, it's the ugly sweater season.
Thank you for not making me say that.
And don't forget the headband here. So I am the president of the Ferndale Community Concert Band, and we will be having our holiday concert on December 16th at the high school on Sunday at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Along with that concert, we'll have a special holiday visitor passing out candy canes on that particular afternoon. So we invite everybody to bring their children and nieces and nephews and neighbor children to enjoy that. We're also going to have a cookie bake-off. Our musicians do a wonderful, wonderful job on baking things for our after-concert bake sale. Last concert, they did so well, we made over $400 on cupcakes and cookies and pies and bread. So put the challenge to the musicians to earn a buck, and they step up every single time. What's wonderful about this concert also is we're encouraging not only our band members to adore these wonderful ugly sweaters. This is the first one in my entire life I have ever owned. I swore I'd never be caught dead with it. Thank you, Kohl's. So we encourage all of our audience members to wear an ugly sweater too, and we'll have a march across the stage on that particular afternoon so you can meet our special guest of the season and model your ugly sweater or jacket or whatever it may be. So we've been working really hard on establishing our business, and every season we seem to get more and more understanding of who we are. But we are not quite reaching out to the community to identify ourselves. So I wanted to read our mission statement because it's a real conviction of who we are and identifies with us so well. The Ferndale Community Concert Band is a diverse, multi-generational musical ensemble of experienced volunteer musicians from all over Metro Detroit. Its mission is twofold: to provide quality, challenging musical and mentoring experiences for the members and student musicians, as well as educating and entertaining the citizens of Ferndale, and the surrounding communities. What we're doing now is I'm interviewing various members of our band and profiling them in our program each performance. Because it's not just enough that I say, hey, we're the best and we have great musicians and they're dedicated and they're experienced. And it's now I want to let you know their qualifications, their commitments, their gift, that they volunteer to spend an enormous amount of time and dedication to perform free for the community. So that being said, I'd like to just play one of our pieces. I'm told I only have to click the space bar. And there we go, hopefully. Thank you very much. Our holiday performance. Wear your ugly sweater. Melanie, I know you and your husband ensemble that will be playing prior to the concert as people are arriving. On this Friday, we've been asked to play for Iron Ridge, the Christmas tree lighting ceremony over there off of Woodward Heights. That's from 5:30 to 8 o'clock. Please join us over there. We had an ensemble play for the Chamber Gala 2 weeks ago, and it was a different type of, whoops. Yeah, it's that. But so we are being asked more and more to participate in other events around our community and outside of our community. And in February, I believe I've spoken of this before, we are having our first music festival. That's February 24th, and we have invited both the Clarkston Community Band and the Rochester Community Band to perform along with us. So it'll be very interesting. So have a great, safe, healthy holiday, and I look forward to seeing you all at our performance.
Thank you, Sharon. Appreciate it.
If I may, Sharon, and you're praising musicians, but you got to take a bow yourself. You put a tremendous amount of effort and time and financial support into this, and I just.
I can't get
So I guess our next presentation will also be Sharon Childs.
Joe, could you pull Sharon out of the podium, please?
Thank you.
You okay? All right, good. Our county commissioner is here with us.
Watch your leg.
That's really a tough act to follow. Thank you. First of all, I just want to thank all the citizens that voted for me. It's an honor to have the opportunity to serve the Ferndale for another 2 years, starting in January. Great things are coming from County Commission. The good news is that we have new leadership, and I am going to have a greater voice after 16 years. when it comes to things like appointments and so forth. I don't have a list of the current appointments, and they're not posted. When that comes up, I do encourage residents to apply for different county positions. I'm very excited. We're going to reorganize how we run, and we have proposed list of new committees that are, going to orchestrate how we do business differently. For example, we're going to have a committee called Healthy Communities and Environmental Sustainability. And instead of government, general government, something like legislative and government operations and things like economic growth, infrastructure, and technology committee. I also, every term, I appoint somebody to the Senior Advisory Council. And this is people who study different issues about seniors and make recommendations to our county executive. Presently, I have a Huntington Woods resident that's been serving, and he's willing to continue, but I would really love to have someone from a different piece of my district. So if anybody is interested in serving on the Senior Advisory Council, they meet Monday afternoons at 1 p.m. At the county complex, so you have to be able to drive out there. We don't have great bus service, unfortunately. Please h@oakgov.com or helenezak@gmail.com. And I would love to hear from people. If you have any other ideas, suggestions, I welcome your comments. Thank you.
Congratulations on your election as well. We look forward to working with you. I see our state representative is in the audience as well, but he didn't call us in advance, so he can't. Always a pleasure to see you, Mr. Representative.
Do I have to pay? Is that what you
Even unannounced.
thank you. Well, thank you, Mayor and council members. Thank you for having me. Robert Wittenberg, and I appreciate you giving me the time to speak, and want to thank everyone here in Ferndale and around the 27th District. I was elected for my third and final term to the State House. We do have the most restrictive term limits in the country. You can only serve for 3 two-year terms in the State House, and it is a lifetime term limit. So I am done. I will never serve in the State House here again. It has been an honor, I can tell you that, and I'm excited for the last 2 years to continue the work and to serve the residents of Ferndale and the rest of the communities here in the 27th District. And just came here briefly just to mention hosting our last community conversation of the year, which again is in essence a coffee hour without coffee. I think I've told this story. I'll tell. I see April shaking her head. So, quick story. The reason why this is the case is when I took office, for the first 4 or 5 coffee hours, we had coffee and no one drank the coffee, and so I felt like it was wasteful. So on the next one, we decided not to have coffee, and someone came and asked where the coffee was. And so from then on, it's been named Community Conversation, so there's no false advertising. So our last community conversation is coming up December 7th at 11 a.m. here at the Ferndale Area District Library. So it's here in Ferndale, so I want to let people know. So it's next Friday that we're hosting that, and that'll be the last one of this camp next year. And again, it's a very informal setting where people can come out and hear a brief update of what's going on in Lansing. I'll talk about what's going on and then answer any questions and listen to any kind of suggestions, thoughts, concerns. Again, I want to be as accessible as possible to everyone. And so we host these every month. And so this will be the last one of this year. So encourage people to come out, and you don't have to live in Ferndale to come. Anyone that wants to come to the community conversation is welcome. So just wanted to briefly mention that. And then we are going into lame duck, just FYI. I know Councilmember Piana, I think you posted something, and I know you're on the lookout of what's going to be going on in Lansing, and it could get very interesting. So, I will obviously be on guard, and I will not be voting for anything that's going to harm our local communities and our schools and our environment and our water and take away local control, and, there's all these different issues. The only thing that we're really hearing right now is there were the two ballot proposals, if people remember. One was to raise the minimum wage, and one was for earned paid sick time. Both of those were passed in order to, in essence, I don't know if the plan is to gut them, but to change them. And so I don't know what that's going to at. I don't know the specifics. Again, I'm serving in the minority, and we don't know what's going to happen. So those are the things that are kind of, be on the lookout. But I want all of you to know you can reach out to me, and anyone at home listening to reach out if there are things you're concerned about, that you're hearing about. Please let me know. Again, you can call 517-373-0478 is my number. Robert Wittenberg at house.mi.gov is my email. So always want to hear from people. And so that's really it. Just a brief update and to let people know. So I don't want them to reach out to me.
Anybody have any questions for our rep? Well, congratulations. Well, you've represented us, and you're right, the term limits are way too restrictive, but we look forward to 2 more years of excellent service from your office. So thanks.
Thank you for saying that.
Representative.
Thank you all.
Appreciate it. Yeah.
Yep. And happy holidays coming up, in case I don't see you all.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Cindy, you're not a presentation, but, I'm guessing you have some downtown stuff to share, so why don't we just put you here as well, and then you don't have to stay for the rest if you don't want to.
Good evening, everybody. Cindy Wilcock, Ferndale DDA. Just wanted to let everybody know, remind you that the Holiday Ice Festival is coming up quickly, as Facebook kindly keeps reminding me it's in 12 days. So we couldn't do it without our sponsors, so I'd like to just give a shout out to our title sponsor, Kreger Plumbing, our 2 presenters, as well as our Hayride sponsors, Credit Union 1 and Park Ferndale, and our warming tent sponsor, Giffords and Webster, as well as the closing in on 50 businesses and other local community groups and leaders who have stepped on board to sponsor ice sculptures this year. So we will again have the Hayride back. The warming tent, the Ferndale Arts and Cultural Commission not only will be doing the cookies and cocoa in the warming tent, but they're also going to sponsor some arts and crafts. And we're working on some other fun stuff, and of course photos with Santa in the morning and then in the afternoon, which will bookend lunch with Santa, which will once again be at Rosie O'Grady's. But it's a great opportunity to get out, check out not only the ice sculptures, but maybe pop into your favorite business and do a little shopping at the same time. Of course, regarding shopping this weekend, as you all probably know, was Small Business Saturday. So the weather wasn't super, but I think we had really good crowds out. I'm still waiting to hear some input back from the businesses. But the Rust Belt market vendors that I've heard from have had an incredible day. Their numbers were way up. We passed out 75 American Express Small Business Saturday totes, along with 250 one-of-a-kind downtown Ferndale totes in probably just under 2 hours. Level 1 Bank came out with their cash mob again and handed out $5 bills to get people to kind of spur on and spend locally. They passed out $1,000 in $5 bills in under an hour to crowds. So hopefully all those $5 bills ended up in our local businesses.
Yep.
If you haven't had a chance to get out and shop locally, there's still plenty of time. There's plenty of great things to find in downtown. We've got some new businesses that have added themselves to the scene. This last year, we have Free Phoenix that used to be Free Space Decor that moved from the back of a building to a storefront. Lane B Jewelry is a new jewelry store. We have 9 Furniture and Design, and of course, our favorites that have been here for quite a while, the Candlewick Shop, the Boston Tea Room, the Downtown Ferndale Bike Shop, all sorts of favorite places. So get out, do your shopping local, support your local businesses. That's all I got.
Well said. Thanks. Anyone have questions for Cindy?
No, thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Cindy. All right, that concludes our presentations this evening. Next item of business is call to audience. This is your opportunity, if you're here to visit us in the audience, to address council on any issue that you would like.
Hello, it's me again.
Sharon?
Hi. When I was here today to drop off my CD for tonight's presentation, the only thing I could comment on is there was a person that was trying to find a parking space. He needed to come in here and park and just for a moment, dropping something off. And the city cars were parked in all the quick park spots. So I found one, but I believe there were 3 city cars parked in the other spaces. So he was trying to do the parking thing, and I said, you don't need to park. I says, just run in, and if you get a ticket, tell them, hey, the city cars were parked here. So, just find another place, I guess, for city
April,
cars.
you might want to remind the staff. Thank you, Sharon. That's a great reminder. Thank you. No, thank you. Sorry about that. All right, anyone else? All right, if not, we'll go on to the consent agenda. Consent agenda are items that council considers routine and we enact in one motion unless council pulls something from the agenda. Let me read that now. Item A is the approval of the regular and special meeting minutes of November 13th, 2018. Item B is the approval of the purchase of a new KIP 720 CIS scanner for the CED in the amount of $8,654 with a $996 yearly maintenance fee for 3 years from Plan Review Digitization CIP 185 from the account noted. Item C is the approval of the amendment to our contract with Great Lakes Water Authority to allow for the 4-year contract schedule beginning in calendar 2022 as submitted by DPW manager. Item D is the approval of the blanket purchase order for $51,000 toward the purchase of MTUs on an as-needed basis and charged to the Water and Sewer Fund Repair and Maintenance account. Item E is the approval of the Police Department Data Center update as submitted by our Assistant City Manager. Item F is the approval of Employee Separation Agreement as submitted by our HR Director. And finally, item G is the approval of the bills and payroll as submitted by the City Manager's Office, subject to review by the Council Finance Committee. What is council's pleasure on the consent agenda this evening?
Just a question of clarification for item E, what is the cost? My packet I got was a little discombobulated. The Police Department Data Center update, what is that?
That total cost, and I do apologize for the tardiness of that item, but the total cost is $14,995. The amount budgeted during the capital improvement process was $15,000, so we're spot on.
Can you speak a little bit about what that is? I mean, you're updating the server, is it, or?
Yeah, we're actually updating. So this is, as you've seen, we've approved surveillance updates, access control updates for the police department. There's a lot of network updates that are needed to accommodate some of the new technology. We have a lot of turnover at the police department over the last year, and so we're accommodating some of that old legacy infrastructure and replacing a lot of it, including network infrastructure. It's going to accommodate new printers as well for them in the upcoming year.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
So why don't we amend that to say $14,995, if that's okay? Is there a motion to accept the consent agenda
I move to approve of
As
the,
amended. As amended?
as amended. I move as amended to approve the project work and materials in the amount of $14,995 from the general fund account number as listed.
Support.
But is that, okay, I was asking for a motion to approve the consent agenda with that
Oh
modification.
my God, I am
Yeah.
so sorry.
That's okay.
Sorry.
That's okay, I
It's
wasn't
what's in
clear.
front of me.
No, yep, I know, I wasn't clear, but, so, to approve.
I move to approve the consent agenda as amended.
We all support.
Moved by Piana, supported by Polika. Now, any discussion on the consent agenda? Any
I
further
really want to
discussion?
recommend this on its own.
I know. It's included. You've incorporated it. Awesome. All right. No discussion on the consent agenda? Barb, would you call the roll, please?
Councilmember Leaks May,
Yes.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Polika,
Yes.
Piana,
Yes.
Mayor Coulter.
Yes, thank you. The consent agenda is adopted. Now, moving on to the regular agenda, we have just one item this evening, and that is the consideration of a marijuana update for marijuana establishments. And our city attorney, Dan Christ, is going to.
Mayor, I don't know if you want us to go to the podium.
It is your choice, Dan. Yeah, the podium is fine. Yep, okay.
Where's the crowd? Expecting one. No?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Just as everybody, as most of Council certainly knows, on November 6th, the Michigan citizens approved Proposal 1, which was a citizen initiative entitled the Michigan Regulation and Taxation of Marijuana Act. And that particular act was approved by November 6 of 2018. The proposal is a ballot initiative that's going to legalize, regulate, and tax marijuana in Michigan for adults that are age 21 years of age or older. Will allow individuals who are 21 years of age or older to possess up to 2.5 ounces of marijuana, and adults will be permitted to grow up to 12 marijuana plants and/or possess up to 10 ounces of marijuana, provided that any amount greater than 2.5 ounces is stored under lock and key. Violations of the law will no longer be misdemeanors, but would be municipal civil infractions. And depending on the severity of any type of infraction. This initiative petition does not preempt federal law. So while in most cases individuals who may possess marijuana would not be the focus of any type of federal investigation, this initiative petition does not preempt federal law. Proposal 1 also creates a legal framework for the licensing and regulating of marijuana businesses in Michigan. And there are additional categories of marijuana businesses that this initiative petition provides. Unlike the legislation that was adopted in 2016, the Michigan Medical Marijuana License Facilities Act, which was a opt-in provision, this initiative petition, the current initiative petition, is an opt-out provision. So it will, recreational marijuana businesses will be allowed in the city of Ferndale unless the city of Ferndale elects to regulate either as it relates to particular types of marijuana establishments or as to the number of particular marijuana establishments. And so that's an important issue that the city will at some point have to come to terms with. The initiative petition also directs that LARA, the state licensing and regulatory affairs, study and develop regulations with respect to the implementation of this initiative petition. And LARA is charged with providing those regulatory rules by December 6th of 2019, so essentially 1 year from the effective date. Given that time period, there is an opportunity for the city of Ferndale to determine what makes the most sense for the residents of the city of Ferndale. And so one of the items that the city council may want to give some consideration to is whether it makes sense to have the administration and/or the planning commission weigh in on whether there are particular types of marijuana establishments that make sense for the city of Ferndale. And to the extent that that is the affirmative, whether there is a certain number of those particular establishments that might be a ceiling or might have a range. But to provide that input to council prior to it deciding whether it wishes to allow those types of use. Specifically, there are, as it relates to the different types of defined marijuana establishments, there's now going to be defined terms of cultivators, which are very similar to grow operations, the processors, testing facilities, secure transporters, retail stores, and micro businesses. And micro businesses is a defined term as it relates to a certain number, up to 150 marijuana plants, where a small business can have that number of plants, process, package, and sell directly to consumers. That would be a marijuana micro business. The proposal requires that the state establish a maximum THC level for edibles. That, again, is something that LARA is going to be charged with. And in addition, the initiative petition provides for, in addition to sales tax, the 6% sales tax that would be on sales, an additional 10% excise tax on retail marijuana sales. Of that 10%, the petition provides that 35% will go to roads, 35% goes to schools, and 15% will go to local governmental entities, cities, villages, and townships, and also counties that elect to, with respect to taking any action. At this time, you, I'm sure, are aware of certain communities opting out or imposing moratoriums at this time. It is, in my review of the initiative language, given that Lara is charged with developing these rules for, within licenses won't happen beginning 1 year from December 6th. This council has essentially a good period of time of 2019 to decide how best to consider this new law to protect the citizens of Ferndale. So while some communities are handling in different ways, again, I have presented for council at the table a draft resolution which simply would direct that administration and the Planning Commission study this issue and provide recommendations with respect to the petition and how best the city of Ferndale might wish to regulate the allowed uses and to provide that recommendation back to council. Again, in the draft, it proposes by May 1st of 2019. There's a lot of other issues that arise in the context of this initiative petition, certainly issues like the city as an employer and the impacts with respect to drug in the workplace. This initiative petition does not eliminate the city's ability to determine that working while under the influence of THC should be and continue to be prohibited. There are also issues with respect to criminal enforcement with respect to this now that it is going to be a municipal civil infraction. I know the chief has talked to the Oakland County Prosecutor's Office with respect to how it is recommending criminal enforcement actions, and we'll be monitoring that. And I'm not sure if the chief has any specific comments that he wishes to make to council on that subject.
Thank you. Not a whole lot more to add, just that we're, this is new to everybody. We're going to enforce the state laws, but I'm working with Dan Christ and the county prosecutors. I guess the best way to look at it is it's kind of just like alcohol. If you're 21, you can possess it in your own home. You can't use it in public, just like you can't walk down the street and drink alcohol. You can't use marijuana in public. If you're driving and you're under the influence and you fail the field sobriety test, you have a chance of being prosecuted for driving under the influence. But like I said, we're working with our partners so that everybody's crystal clear on the stance we're taking as a city. At the beginning, it's going to be educate, get everybody educated on what they can and can't do. And quite honestly, there's better things that we can spend our time on than the small amounts that we typically run into on a daily basis. So I don't know if council has any questions for Dan or myself.
Well, while you're there, are there any questions of the chief? And then we'll get back to questions for Dan.
Chief, are there thoughts of, in my mind, we have, one is too many. We have a substantial number of infractions related to alcohol. How much of a workload increase is this going to be?
To be determined. We really don't know because people are somewhat cautious currently because they know that there was illegal to 2 weeks ago. We don't know what those numbers will flourish to.
And this is just my opinion. I don't think there's the perception out there that the same rules apply, like you can't be outside using this. That kind of thing, I think, is going to trip some folks up.
There'll be a big educational component on it as well.
Sure.
And it begins December 6th, right? So starting December 6th, these rules are going to be in place.
Right.
Well, I have a statement of clarification, because there's two paths. One for businesses, which technically the law goes in effect December 6th, but they have a year, right? But the other path is citizens, private homeowners, which starts December 6th. So someone could have 12 plants or, was it 10 ounces?
10 ounces,
In,
correct.
in your private home, right?
That's right.
Starting December 6th.
That's true. I don't see that as being really much of a change. I don't believe that the police department is currently actively engaged in going to anybody's house relative to that, other than in the course of some other type of investigation. But to your point, the regulatory scheme that the city may wish to consider is completely different than the potential criminal or civil infraction enforcement mechanism, which technically will go into effect December 6th. There will be probably at council's next meeting in December, some draft ordinance amendments as it relates to the decriminalizing of possession of marijuana to reference a municipal civil infraction.
Through the chair, that, for the state to figure this out, I don't understand, what if we do nothing on this tonight? And what happens? What does December 6th look like? I get the personal ownership, individual stuff, but for businesses, what does this look like December 6th if we do nothing?
There will be no change because they will not be able to operate as a state-issued licensee until they have a license. This regulatory scheme under the initiative petition does not, it is completely separate than the medical marijuana provisions that remain in effect. And so council has already approved 3 medical marijuana facilities, which presumably are in some process of getting their final licensed approval from the state. Doesn't have any impact on those. Those can continue forward. But at some point before December 6th, council needs to consider how it wishes to regulate this, if it wishes to regulate it, if it wishes to zone it into particular areas as it relates to some of these allowed marijuana establishment type uses.
So all really the significant push of this resolution is to get the staff of the planning commission to study it.
Exactly. There is no opt-in or opt-out
Right. So
or any decision as it relates to that.
So either way, on December 6th, we're not going to see a shop on every corner downtown.
That's correct. You will
No,
not.
but what we don't want to see, I think, and I think the value of doing this is, so we're going to have a lot of folks, just like they did last year, coming to us asking and looking
Absolutely.
for guidance in terms of what Ferndale is going to be interested in doing. So the sooner we can give
The planning
the
commission.
planning commission and the staff an opportunity to look at this, and we help guide that, we'll help the overload of all the folks that are going to want to come to Ferndale and ask
Candidly,
what
but
we're
I do
doing.
feel like we're offloading the attention to the planning commission. Not that it's not the appropriate
Yeah.
place, but they're still going to be there. They're just going to go to the planning commission to try to.
Well,
We need,
yeah.
through the chair.
Yes.
Well, we need some zoning recommendations, even though I have a feeling they're going to follow some medical marijuana.
I'm sure, yeah.
Zoning regulations, but I think that's where to identify any gaps that may exist between the old legislation and the new legislation, I think is really critical, that the planning commission at least weigh in. And I'd rather be upfront and proactive rather than wait, and since this is a long process. So to me, getting them started, whether they start, this is a signal that the planning commission should look at it. When staff directs them to start looking at it next year is up to staff. They don't have to start in January, but they could start in March. But this is a signal to begin that process. I'm also interested too, I've had questions.
But before you
Yeah.
change, on that point though, are you suggesting, because I think I may be hearing this, and maybe you, that we should be more specific about what parts of we want the planning commission to study, as opposed to just,
I think it requires a few guardrails.
Oh,
in other words, we
think-
want you to look at
I'm open to
zoning
that.
and this, but the number of them are our responsibility, you know what I'm saying?
I think it requires some guardrails to go to the, well, I'm on the planning commission.
That's what I'm sensing, and I
welcome-
don't disagree with you.
I
Maybe
agree.
we should
Yeah.
be more clear about that.
Yeah.
Or have staff define it.
Or
I mean, I'm
help,
comfortable with that.
work with staff to help us. But I agree, I don't think it's just necessarily saying to the planning commission, what do you think the city should do?
Right.
Some of those are gonna be our decisions with staff's recommendations, and
No,
then some other things,
absolutely.
like, to your point about zoning and whatnot, are theirs.
Yeah, to keep them on track and to keep within the timelines. I just, like I said, to see
Yeah.
some guardrails on
Is
that.
that okay, April? Would you be willing to,
Yeah.
okay.
And I'm fine with that.
Thank you, I just wanted to clarify that.
I was just gonna say, I agree. I'd like to see staff kind of come up with some direction and limitations of what the planning commission should then consider, for us to allow planning commission to then consider. Because I would assume that staff would come back to us with those recommendations, and we would then, okay. I do have a question for the chief. So effective December 6th, legally, you can have 2.5 ounces of marijuana on you. If there's an instance where you come into contact with a person because they got into an accident and discovered that they had 3 or 4 ounces, what laws are then going to take into place? Are they going to be treated like anybody else who would have originally just had marijuana on them?
We're still working through, are we gonna require all our people to now carry scales on the road because they're a little bit over on their, loose marijuana? So we have some things to work through on our end. Guidance coming from the county overall, like, and pushing the reports forward, so.
Okay, good.
So to be clear, though, is that guidance coming from the prosecutor, or is that coming from the sheriff's department?
I mean, the prosecutor's the one that writes the warrants, the sheriff's department doesn't.
Right, really.
I mean,
Should be.
our guidance to our people is gonna be, if it's in question and they're close, we're just gonna go hands off and educate, and then we'll worry about the repercussions, on the back end. It's a difference between having a baggie and having,
A trunk load?
right.
Yeah.
Treated as if the law is taking effect. Those that already have convictions, that's to be determined. I don't think they're gonna go back in time unless you have anything.
Are there any local city ones that are pending?
I suspect there may be. I haven't looked at that issue.
Could you? I mean, I
I
think
will.
we would want to.
Yes, yeah, I will look at that issue. I know that since the 6th, there have been some incident reports that have had potential charges that we've declined to issue since the 6th. But I haven't gone back to look at whether there's still some in process that are across the street.
Okay.
I will provide that information to you.
Thank you.
And through the chair, I have a final question. I've already received questions from folks about, for no better terminology, the stinky ordinance. For people who are growing out of their house, it is creating a scent nuisance for neighbors. How is that even taken into consideration? Because there's some houses in Ferndale that you walk by and there's definitely a scent. So how does that impact neighborhood quality if there's emanating smells coming out of, a dwelling that is impacting the quality of life of a resident next door? These are questions I have received already, and so I don't have an answer. This is what the study will look at. And I don't even know how to even begin to address that.
Yeah, good question.
I can
Right?
tell you in the past, when we've received those complaints, we've notified our narcotics officer, and they went over there and did a knock and talk and did some education. But as far as enforcing smell, we can enforce noise and light and things like that, but smell is a whole different
It
ballgame.
is. But I think it's gonna be a concern down the road from residents.
I would imagine though that if the smell is that bad, they're probably over the limit.
I agree,
So that's easier.
but
No, we can definitely look at all of that. We may not have any answer, but we can look at that. So I just want to circle back though. So I'm hearing instead of the resolution before you, you'd like to see staff, but kind of like we did last time, the staff recommendations first and then carry it through to the planning commission?
Put some guidelines, yeah,
I
put
guess I
some,
just want to clarify.
put some guidelines in place of what question is the planning commission answering?
Okay.
And looking at in the study. I mean, they'd be looking for staff to, navigate the boat and get their feedback and their involvement and engagement, and then bring it back.
Okay.
with that to their recommendation.
And so with that too, I think we're probably gonna do that fairly quickly because
We
we
need
do
to.
get a lot of phone calls.
We do.
want to
That's
clear
why
it
I
up,
really
and
wanna head
that's what we
off.
don't want.
Yeah.
And then the planning commission's docket is full already. I mean, it's busy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we could probably do that pretty quickly and give you guys at least some parameters and maybe go from there.
And then
I don't think
Oh,
you
and
guys
by the
need
way,
a resolution for that
when
one.
we say administration, I assume, and I'm assuming, and I assume we mean the police department as well, and the fire department,
Relates to.
Staff.
Oh,
The study.
Oh, yeah. No,
our staff administration.
Oh,
I mean,
okay,
it's you,
yes.
but I mean, I obviously want to
No,
hear
it-
the
it
concerns
included all of
of,
them for medical as well, so yeah,
Yeah.
that'll be a big part of that conversation. So yeah, it won't just be planning.
yeah, I want to hear all the concerns, so.
Yeah, and then, if I may.
Yeah.
Path number 2 is a policy for city workers.
Yeah.
For marijuana usage, right?
Yeah.
So that would be something else that we would need to take a look at.
Well, or,
That's internally.
Yeah.
it's an internal, I don't know, we'd have to come break it here, but I'd encourage us to follow the guidelines for alcohol or any other kind of substance. I mean,
All right.
Well, DOT covers most of our people in the
Sure.
firearms cover
Yeah.
us, so yeah, so we'll take care of that internally, but I'll make sure to let you guys know.
But like, one of the questions would be, this is where, for me, it's different than alcohol is, so do we screen for marijuana? Just a question, I would
I can give you a
wonder,
heads up on that.
yeah.
and I know this is splitting the hairs. I mean, what happens if someone's using a topical for arthritis, which I know many do? What does that show up? What does that look like? You know?
Correct, I can.
Yes.
So.
And then through the chair, I have one final question. Every community that opts in is going to be going through an education process for business owners as well as residents. What funds have the state allocated to help communities educate their residents?
You know that answer. Zero.
Right. No, even the percentages, they took care of sorry, Robert, but took care of their two biggest expense items, but 15% left for the change for the cities. It's disappointing, but it's the way things
Well, in
go.
my editorialization over the last, 10 years or so, we've lost way more than 15% of our state revenue.
Yeah,
So,
yes. We know we have a representative who will make that argument.
I know, yeah, absolutely.
With increased numbers, but not a majority, so.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, there's really no further comments. If there's any
Yeah.
questions for me, I'm happy to answer them. The draft resolution does not have to be considered tonight, and so
Yeah.
you may want to just refer it to staff until it's ready to have that framework or additional refinement for your consideration.
But I appreciate the way you framed it, because I kind of was thinking when we started this, well, we're not going to opt out, so we'll just roll with it. But as we saw with medical marijuana, we are going to want to weigh in on how many
Yeah.
and where and all of those things.
And
so-
certain types,
and-
potentially.
And types and all of that. So thank you for
really
bringing that
good
to our
work, what
attention.
you did.
Yeah,
This is
appreciate the education on
But I
this.
will say from our end, our team will want to fast track this just because we're inundated
Yeah.
quicker that we have
Yeah,
it's helpful for all of us, so.
yeah.
Okay.
I agree. I don't want to be dealing with this in September of next year.
Great. All right, so that concludes our regular agenda for this evening. Next item of business is call to council. Chief, anything else for the good of the community this evening? No. How about DPW? Anything from DPW this evening? Leaves are coming down, snow is coming down. Wait, I think we said that 2 weeks ago.
Next week is our last week of leaf pickup, tentatively, for the most part, probably, depending on how the weather goes. So do plan on that.
Maybe?
Do plan on that. Get all the leaves out there next week. That's the entire city. Some spots on the west side don't look that great right now because we are resorting to having to push leaves because the vacuums don't really like the wet leaves and
Yeah.
everything else. So some of the streets don't look the greatest. Bear with us. It's hard to do right now, this type of weather. And then also yard waste pickup, your curbside stuff. The last day for curbside yard waste pickup will be December 21st. After that, until it starts back up in the spring, you can take your stuff and drop it off at Sakura. You just can't put any of your yard waste out at the curb.
Right.
And then that's all I got tonight.
All right.
so.
Through the chair.
Yeah.
A resident mentioned to me that they've noticed two trucks coming down the street, like one will come one way and a different one will come one way, and the operator of one truck will get every last leaf, and the operator on the other side of the street has the vacuum a foot and a half off the ground, barely picking anything up. So I'm just sharing this comment with you of what was shared with me. But I have noticed from time to time where one street will be like very clean and the other street has lots of smushed leaves.
Yeah, and, you know, we've probably heard that from a couple other residents, just trying to get the guys to pay a bit more attention, be a bit more cautious and out there while they're out there. I know, sometimes the cars on the streets, and I know we don't put out signs because half the time we're spending trying to keep up with ourselves, but yeah, that's just paying better attention and taking better care of the job that they're doing, but we've had those conversations, so.
This week is west side and next week is both sides.
Both sides, yep.
Okay.
So, if you got leaves, try and get them out there. I know it's supposed to be wet again this weekend, probably wet again next week, so, best you can. Other than that, no, you know, can wait till spring, maybe they'll dry out between now and winter.
Are we good for salt?
The snowplow will take care of them, you know, once we.
Depending on how the snow falls, we'll
Thought
see
that's
how
what I
much
heard.
salt we lay down. So we're getting all our, spreaders recalibrated and stuff like that, so we're not overly spreading salt out on the streets, and we're spreading them out there we need to be spreading, so.
Excellent.
Yep.
Thank you, sir. All right. Fire department, for the fire marshal is here with us this evening. Anything for the good of the community?
Yes, hi, Mayor and Council. I just want to address some safety tips for the holidays. We're in the holiday season, just to keep the community safe. I think that it'd be beneficial just to bring some reminders up. First will be inside the house. Please do not leave any unattended cooking or anything. Always be mindful of the kitchen. Turn off lighting in the house, Christmas lights when you're not home. No overuse of extension cords when you're using those things. Use power strips and ones that will turn off if they're overloaded. Also, be mindful of Christmas decorations, especially Christmas trees, whether they're live or artificial. You don't want to place them near an exit way, so if they did catch fire, you still have a good way out. Fireplaces, if you have a wood-burning fireplace or a wood-burning stove, please have that inspected. It's a little bit of money for a lot of good insurance for your home. As far as outside the home, Christmas lighting, again, you don't want to have staples like Clark Griswold on vacation. Use the plastic clips, they're much better. Don't overload those, use a weatherproof extension cord. And try and take care of your walkways, and during snow emergencies, don't park on the street so we can get emergency vehicles, whether it's police or fire or the ambulance down the street. If you notice a fire hydrant out in front of the house or down the street that's covered in snow, please give us a call. We'll come out and shovel it out for you.
Great.
Okay?
Good.
Thank you very much.
Excellent tips. Thank you, sir.
Thanks. Through the chair.
Yeah. Oh, question for you. Fire marshal.
I have a question that I know the answer to, but I'm going to let you do the plug. If a senior isn't able to change the battery in their fire smoke detector, what can they do?
They can give us a call at the fire station. That's one thing I left out, I'm sorry. The big thing for me, I like to tell people, check your smoke alarm once a month. Just press the button. You should have one at every level of the house, basement, first level, second level, and one in every sleeping area, and one within 10 feet outside the sleeping area. And sleep with your doors closed. If you need a financial assistance, you can't afford a smoke alarm, Michigan Fire Inspectors has a grant, and they have several smoke alarms that they're going to give to the communities throughout the state of Michigan.
Nice.
So I have a stockpile of them. We do home safety inspections also. I've had a couple so far this year. Very basic safety tips, and we've gotten good feedback so far, and that's for every resident, whether they rent or they own a home in the city.
What number should they call?
Headquarters station, 248-546-2510, my extension 302. Excellent. Leave me a message from that there.
Great.
Okay?
Thank you.
Hello, Mayor and Council. How you doing? So we have our Breakfast with Santa that is coming up on Saturday, December 1st. We actually just sold out of tickets today at 110 people. We opened it up to an additional 30. Our sponsors, we have Vibe Credit Union, Oakland County Credit Union, that were a big help in us putting on the event. For those that will be attending, we'll have breakfast, which includes pancakes, sausage, and eggs, along with pictures with Santa that you can take home, goodie bags, and we're doing crafts from 4 different countries around the world and doing them in ways that they celebrate Christmas and different traditions and everything. Those 4 countries. Other than that, we also have our Little Eagles basketball program, which should be beginning practices, I believe, in the next 2 weeks, and with games starting in early January. And aside from that, we have Daddy-Daughter Dance that will be coming up on February 9th, so we want to make sure residents keep their calendars open for that. That registration also goes very fast, just like Breakfast with Santa did, so make sure that you are in tune with when we start our marketing and when we open up registration. Cool?
Excellent. Thank you.
All right, no questions for me?
I just want to say I really love how you guys are selling out on these events. I think that's just wonderful.
We are working very hard to
Yeah.
make sure that all of our events and programs and everything are revamped and something that will benefit the community. So, yeah, we appreciate the support from you guys and everything.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Cheryl, anything from finance this evening? Joe, anything from Assistant City Manager's office? No. Kara, anything from communications? No. All right. Parking? Nothing. All right. Barb, anything from City Clerk's office?
Nothing.
All right. City Manager?
Just a friendly reminder that December's meeting schedule is slightly different. We'll be having one meeting on December 17th with a work session prior to that. I'll keep you informed on when that is. But there is no meeting for those that watch on December 10th. Please watch.
I'm game,
Or
seriously.
not? Yeah. Maybe.
You started it.
I'd have to buy one.
Dan, Chris, anything else?
further, Mayor.
All right. Thank you. Councilman Martin?
I don't have anything tonight, thank you.
All right. Councilwoman Leaks May?
I just have one thing. I just want to give a plug out to my fellow councilwoman, Melanie Piana, on the review. I'm kind of loving this. I think, I'm really proud of you.
No,
I'm
thank
just
you.
Glad to see you getting out the good things that we're doing here and you embracing your new role. So, here's to girl power.
Thank you.
Oh, she's got to do it one more time. They got to, I think, yeah. It's the Review, which is the magazine of the Michigan Municipal League.
Yes.
Of which
We're being so,
Never say never.
but, so, thank you.
Well, why don't we just keep it going with you then?
Well, I just really appreciate council's support in this role. We're a great team, and I tell anybody who will listen up at MML and our conferences how great it is to work with city staff and our council. Just really proud to step up in this role, and you're going to see me doing a lot of legislative activities, probably especially through Lame Duck, because it is crazy sausage making time and for quite a while. So with that, I had a lovely time blowing lots of money at Small Business Saturday in our downtown. I love the new bus stop in front of the Rust Belt, and I just really wanted to compliment the DDA on its communications on Small Business Saturday, so great job.
Mayor Pro Tem Pollico.
Nothing this evening, Your Honor.
All right. I don't have anything to add as well. I hope people had a nice holiday, and we will see you on the 17th. So thank you, and with that, meeting is adjourned.